Okay, this says a lot of questions being asked. I made a comment about something about usurping the Constitution. ICE was doing some raids and just running up on people without knowing who they were and arresting them. And so I mentioned due process, usurping the Constitution. And they turn it into a political thing. I'm apolitical and I just go by the law. So, yes, public servants generally have the right to refuse to carry out unlawful orders. This right is often protected by whistleblower laws and can be rooted in the oaths public servants take to uphold the law. However, the specific legal framework and consensus for refusing such orders can vary depending on the context, such as whether the individual is a member of the military or a civilian employee. Key points: whistleblower protection, federal laws protection for employees who report violations of law, fraud, waste, or abuse, including the right to refuse unlawful orders. Oath of office. Public servants take an oath to uphold the law, and this oath can be seen as a basis for refusing orders that violate the law. Okay, military versus civilian. The military has a clear legal framework for disobedience with Article 90 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice addressing the issue. In the civilian world, the legal landscape is more complex, and there's protections against retaliation for refusing illegal orders. The practical implications can be significant. Disagreement versus illegality. It's crucial to distinguish between disagreeing with a policy and an order being illegal. Public servants can't refuse orders simply because they disagree with them. Consequences: refusing an unlawful order can lead to disciplinary actions or even legal challenges, particularly if the order is not clearly unlawful or if the refusal is not handled properly. In essence, public servants have the right to refuse unlawful orders, but they should be aware of the legal framework, potential consequences, and the need to act in good faith. If they're acting in good faith, then they can claim qualified immunity, but if they're not acting in good faith, then they can't claim qualified immunity. Which that good faith argument is ridiculous to me. Okay, third option for federal employees faced with illegal orders: just say no. Agencies cannot legally fire them, demote them, or remove them. Those same statutes provide a right to disobey. Okay? Federal laws protect federal employees who have to follow order that violates the law, regulations, or rules. They may not know it, but they have the right to disobey. If they're directed to do something that violates the Administrative Procedures Act, federal personal statutes, published federal procurement rules and regulations, or an appropriate act by Congress and signed into law, federal personnel may legally refuse to obey, and under the oath of office, arguably must. Can't take an order to serve and protect the public and do the contrary. Civil servants who were fired, demoted, or reassigned because they refused an order can appeal to the Office of Special Counsel and Merit Systems Protection Board, which can and does give them their jobs and payback. In February, several Justice Department officials resigned rather than obey a directive to drop their corruption case against the New York City Mayor Adams. After they did, another DOJ official signed the order to avoid people being fired. Complying or resigning are not the only options. Federal employees sometimes have another. In words of Mr. Reagan, sometimes they can just say no. In fact, sometimes that's their duty. Trump administration began a broad attack on many activities of federal government and now controls it, has acted aggressively to implement its agenda and stop programs it disagrees with it, and to fire members of a civil service on allegations of poor performance without evidence. Some of these actions are lawful implementation of the president's agenda. However, various court decisions show many are not. Under federal laws, employees who call out violations of law, fraud, waste, or abuse receive whistleblower protections. Agencies cannot legally fire them, demote them, or remove them. Those same statutes provide a right to disobey. They protect employees who refuse an order because doing so would violate the Constitution, laws, agency rules, and federal regulations. Federal employees need to resign or comply. They just can say no. Law doesn't permit civil servants to debate solely because they disagree with a policy. However, when federal employees join federal service, they sign an oath to well and faithfully discharge the duties of office. So help me God. The oath doesn't change from administration to administration and clearly includes complying with the nation's laws. If directed to do something that violates the Administrative Procedure Act, federal employee statutes, published federal procurement and rules and regulations, or appropriation enacted by Congress and signed into federal law, federal personnel may legally refuse to obey, and under the oath of office, arguably must. They have to disobey. They can't take an illegal order. They don't have to. An agency shall not take or threaten any action against any employee because of refusing to obey an order that would require an individual to violate the law, rule, or regulation. All right, people, I just want to cut that short. Just wanted to let you know that public servants can refuse to take an unlawful order, and it's their choice of whether or not they do. Saying, well, hey, just taking orders, that's my job. No. They have their job. Taking orders from politicians to violate the law, no, that's not their job. That's putting their loyalty to whoever, before they oath to the Constitution. No, that's illegal. The laws are always come first. Okay, people, I just wanted you to understand some of the things I've been getting at. And some people are getting mad at me because they're saying I'm being political. I'm not being political. I'm being apolitical. Trying to get things constitutionally correct. You have a good night. God bless.